You wouldn't be able to do these awful things to me if I wasn't still in this chair.
But you are, Shaw. You are in this chair.
That was it. Good morning, Krakoa. Hi there. I'm Michael.
I'm DeVon.
And I'm Terence.
And each week, we bring you the latest in all the X-book goodness out there. We will discuss them. We will dissect them. We will go down numerous rabbit holes, including a few of Moira's no-no places sometimes. And all the while, we'll do it unapologetically and as queer as possible. So if that sounds like your scene, hang out, sit down, relax, stay a while. Hey everybody, how's it going?
It's going, it's near the end of the pandemic, psych, haha. Now we're moving into a fuel shortage, so let that section of this apocalypse wash over you.
There's no fuel anywhere, or people think that there's no fuel anywhere, which has resulted in there being no fuel anywhere.
I drive a Prius,
Yeah.
so
No.
I'm good.
Yeah, well, fuck you too.
Wow. Does the Prius come with that smug, or did you have to buy it separately?
Oh, I bought it separately. It's a
Okay.
part of the warranty package.
How nice for you.
I went and found some at the Chevron near my house. Of course, there was this woman going like full commuter Karen at the pumps, but I couldn't tell if it was justified. I just heard her shouting at some guy about, move your ugly ass truck. I couldn't see what was happening. I thought maybe she was shouting at one of these people filling an oil drum with gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
So I waited to reserve judgment, but then he pulled away and it was just this guy in a regular delivery van who had been blocking the pump so she couldn't pull up any further.
So what you're saying is that it was not, in fact, an ugly ass truck.
I thought it was a very tasteful looking delivery van.
Right, so totally unjustified.
Absolutely.
How are you doing, Michael?
I'm good. Working, doing creative projects.
Yeah, if you didn't know, Michael makes stained glass.
I do. My friend and I, shout out to Leah. She does listen to the show, even though she doesn't know anything about X-Men, but she does it out of love. She and I have formed a partnership. She is the master. I am the apprentice. And we have created Oh Bitch Studios, which is all about doing commissioned stained glass pieces. People seem to really like it. We've done things that are super gay. We've done Nightmare Before Christmas. I do a lot of Doctor Who stuff, and it's only just beginning. And of course, I do have some very important plans for X-Men down in the pipeline. I just got to get through these commissions.
Yeah, so check that out if you haven't. Their pieces are really excellent. Shameless plug for one of our GMK hosts.
Well, Terence, what do we have on slate for today?
This week we've got Children of the Atom #3 by Vida Ayala, art by Paco Medina, and color artist David Curiel. We also have X Factor #9, the penultimate issue, super sad, by Leah Williams, and art by David Baldion, and color artist Israel Silva. Plus, we have the long-anticipated X Corp #1 by Teeny Howard, art by Alberto Foce, and color artist Sunny Go. So today I'll be reviewing Children of the Atom #3.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so we get more backstory on these kids, and it is an exercise in the same tedium as always. Because do we actually figure out what's going on with them? No, but we find out more complicated things about what's going on with them, like someone may or may not be a mutant. We do get some juicy details in that their friend, Cole, is not actually a mutant, but was bonded to mutant DNA by what is very obviously some sort of bigoted, anti-mutant, quasi-appropriative group called Real Unity. Come on, like, you couldn't be a more obvious villain. And we have Carmen being very, very emotional in ways that I can empathize with, so I don't want to make too light of it, but damn, it's dramatic, and I think she had a seizure, or she might have powers, and I guess the kids also, we learned, stole a spaceship, and the Animorphs they are not, because I don't think they got anything cool out of it. They just crashed, and were super, like, I mean, they acted like kids. Anyway, that's everything that happened in this book. No reveals, except for maybe Cole. Nothing about these kids except maybe Carmen has something special about her, which is apparently the ability to have seizures.
1 minute and 20 seconds.
The kids found a spaceship somehow. We don't know how or why or where, but I guess that's just par for the course in Marvel. Kids just run into spaceships. The kids decide to go to see their friend Cole for dinner, and surprise, Cole has two dads. That's awesome. Except their other guest is this leader of a group called Real Unity that basically screams harvesting mutants for their organs and their DNA without their consent, which is apparently how Cole recovered from whatever sickness he has. And Cole seems to display the same amount of uneven emotions that he had before, possibly due to this procedure, when he accuses his friends of only trying to spend time with him because they want to gank that mutant DNA and go through these portals, which does seem to lay out that, again, as we have probably guessed since issue 1, these kids are not mutants. They're not mutants. These kids are not mutants. What are they? Why are we spending so much time hovering around it? Let's just say it. And but this book does feature Carmen the most. She has a lot of issues with self-esteem. She is someone who's really working to please others in a bid to validate herself, including supporting her friends and supporting her family. But she really hopes to find someone who will validate her without her having to do any of those things and be useful, and then seems to have some sort of medical issue that either is her actually having a medical issue, which she is vaguely and deceptively describing as being quote unquote special, or it is actually some sort of power she has and or mutant power that I couldn't tell from the art is either actually physically affecting her or is just causing her a lot of pain. Because I couldn't tell if she was really starting to develop canines and some sharp claws, or if that was just the way the artist was trying to convey how much gut-wrenching pain she is in right now and getting super veiny. So
You're right. It is really hard to tell exactly what is going on there. And in fact, in every stage of this story, uh, I mean, pick a plot thread and go with it. This has all the feeling of like the penultimate episode of a series that was told 3 weeks ago that it's going to be canceled. So it has that energy where
yeah,
everything is being rushed to finality, or to some climax that I hope pays off. Also, can we discuss how Carmen's art is so completely different from Children of the Atom #1, where she was drawn significantly curvier?
yes,
Um,
okay. I thought the same thing. I realized that there was probably an artist change for this issue, but I remember feeling that like Carmen looks so different, and she,
He's not the only one.
yeah, I mean,
I
a
can't
lot
remember
of,
his name, but Marvel Boy or whatever his code name is.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
he was kind of hefty and big, and in this one he's like skinny and scrawny.
yeah. That definitely happens based on the kind of artists that you have. But Carmen really got some of that drawing skinny people only treatment from this artist because she was definitely a curvier girl. And now she kind of looks like Riri Williams.
Right?
So again, it feels like it's intentionally misleading. It's meant to be a cliffhanger, but this entire book is cliffhangers. And I'm tired. I want to just give me something solid to work with here.
And this is a sign that the book is bad, because my main question is, how many more of these do we have left to go?
I mean, okay, you've introduced a villain. I mean, a villain who has no direct ties to these characters. I don't know.
But a villain whose hands are
Enormous.
stupendously large.
Thirsty fisting bottoms. Get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Fisting reference number 1. Boom.
But we've
Ding.
seen this storyline before of this mysterious stranger coming in, giving weird powers. I mean, such a sinister apocalypse trope. It's
And also like a relatively recent trope. We saw that with the U-Men, right? We saw
yeah,
that with the U-Men returning in a later storyline where they gave everyone like, aerosolized superpowers. In that sense, this is not new if that's what's happening with these characters. And we already know too much about grafting mutant DNA onto humans to be shocked by it. So like cut through that crap, get me to what makes this story unique.
Once again, this story would have been better served if it happened last year, as we've said many times, because X-Force delved into this exponentially better with Domino and the reverse Domino and all that stuff that was happening. But it is literally the same concept.
In terms of character work, I understand what's being written here about Carmen and her feelings of inadequacy and trying to showcase her talents, but also using that as a mask. That's all very nice character work. It's very nice character work that has come as of 9 issues. Or sorry, no, damn, it felt like 9 issues.
Right.
It's character work that's come in like in the 3rd issue. I felt like this actually would have been a very good first issue. You have the kids on a spaceship. You have Carmen like with some very dramatic reveal or some kind of thing that's going on, and a lot of deep character work. All the stuff that's happened in before like is a little less consequential. Why didn't you lead with this?
I mean, I get it. She's a whiny teenager. How can you be that whiny and that blind to all this stuff, but also so blind to literally what's in front of you? You have this hot, kind of gender neutral, non-binary-ish character in Buddy who is so flirting with her throughout the entire book. Like, she comes up and she whispers right in her ear and is like, "It was the best way to wake up this morning." And I'm just like, damn, girl, throwing it at her. And she's like, "Oh, I just don't know if she feels the same way about me." Come on.
We saw this love triangle in an earlier issue.
Yeah, number 1.
Yeah.
And I mean, Buddy has been coded as a lesbian from the very beginning. And I don't want to put too much stock in the notion that the way a person dresses is indicative of their sexuality or their presence, but let's be honest. With Buddy, the way that she's been treating Carmen throughout this entire series sort of gaslighted into believing that she would be the lesbian character. And her reveal that she was holding a torch for Carmen's boyfriend, yeah, I still don't buy it. But Buddy's affection toward Carmen, the way that she calls her best friend, her body language, or how it's drawn, it's very heavily lesbian coded on Buddy's part as the initiator.
Buddy could be bi or pan, but I just don't see all this turmoil. Looking at this first page where Carmen's looking at the picture of her friends and then she's talking to her mom, but then she's holding her mouth to, I assume, stifle the sobs as she is crying to herself. I could understand this if the reveal is that she does have a superpower or possibly a devastating illness that she hasn't told anyone about, but we'll never know because this issue didn't tell us. Instead, it just gave us a vague teaser of something to come where my patience has already been sapped.
Yeah, I would drop this book if it wasn't for this show. And that's the first time I've said that about any book in the new Hickman era. Even X-Force!
For this that I really do like. I mean, the kids are obviously diverse, they're queer, they're young, they can be a new team. It's written by a queer writer. The art is not bad, even if it's somewhat inconsistent between apparently actually each book, which is strange. But I don't have the patience for this kind of thing. Like you got to tell me, because knowing where it's coming out now, like based on all the storylines we've had, this is nothing new.
I'm bored.
Let's move on to something that we do like.
Yeah, I think it's time for X Factor.
Okay, in 3, 2, 1, go.
So at this point, they are diving into Siren's mindscape, and they're learning all about the inner workings that are going on inside of Siren, and they come up with a clever plan because they need to solve a riddle about an impossible hero that could actually kill the Morrigan, and they figure out it's Shatterstar. So they head on over to the Mojo World, and they do a massive takeover, all under the guise of a Dazzler, Lila Cheney, and DJ, weirdly, concert. And afterwards, they are able to get Shatterstar out of Mojo World, solve Mojo World, and exit, really. And then they have Shatterstar fight the Morrigan, and he kills the Morrigan. We find out she's been trying to do an ancient ritual of getting 1,000 souls over and over again. And that's why she needs to go down. But she's gone now. And after that, we had Shatterstar and Richter all of a sudden get a parting gift from the Morrigan after being defeated. And we don't know what's going to happen next, but there's only one issue left, and we're devastated. The end.
Nice. That is 1 minute and 12 seconds.
Okay.
Nice job. The Morrigan stuff, especially with her mythology, caught me off guard. I don't know if the Morrigan was more deeply associated with Siren or anything in the X books, because it seemed like she did.
Siren back in X Factor during the Peter Allen David days, that was her exit, was that she ends up making a deal with the Morrigan to be the new Morrigan, and so she becomes the new Morrigan, and that was the last that we saw of her until House of X. So that really is the deepest that she runs.
Well, that is important.
Yeah. I missed all of that, and this kind of came out of nowhere for me.
That makes it kind of hard to judge. I mean, X Factor's been a really fun book. I still love everything about it. I love the team working together. Their powers, actually literally joining as a circuit this time, was really cool to watch and see how they're all involved. The fact that this relies as heavily on the backstory with Siren is a bit disconcerting. I can't really fault them for drawing on continuity, but I really needed that then to really understand the impact of what was happening here, particularly when we learned that there's only one issue left, which is really upsetting because this was a really fun book, possibly one of the best that's running right now. The thing about Shatterstar, it didn't seem to be quite that much of a revelation, only insofar as he's like a Chekhov's gun. He's appeared. They were going to try to get him back. And now they have. So the riddle was kind of like, okay, well then this is very obvious that he was introduced and here's where he's going to come back into play. I am really interested in seeing what it is she gave as a parting gift.
This is all pre-Krakoa, but Richter was trying to get him to stay with him, and they were separated again because they are that couple. But yeah, by the end of it, they kind of re-solidified that Richter is his person, but they didn't get together, if I remember correctly.
So I guess Richter now has a choice between pining after being Apocalypse's butt boy or pining after being Shatterstar's butt boy.
Because he's clearly a bottom.
Which butt boy destiny will he take?
Okay, well, thank you for that. I'm now less disappointed in this book. At first, it felt like you were telling a story about hummus, and in the middle, you had to go to Palestine, liberate it to get the fresh hummus, and then come back and you talked about your hummus. I felt, the liberation of mutants from Mojo World felt like it should have had a bigger role in the story and probably should have been its own issue, but then we had to deal with this Morgan stuff.
And a larger impetus, like, oh, we need to get this one character. Let's free everybody.
Right.
I mean, why not?
I mean, why not? That's true. But it's also like, but then why was this on your back burner? I mean, you guys rescued Sophia, or you investigated Sophia issues ago, right? Was the priority of liberating mutants not important then?
I don't think it was their job.
And yet now it is.
Well, technically, they didn't do it. They went in to get Shatterstar, but actually, it was Magic and Danny being badasses that liberated Mojo World.
Yes, but in a plan concocted by Northstar as the leader of X Factor.
I'm just going to believe that this was the only time that Lila Cheney and Dazzler had some free time in their schedules.
Honestly, I wonder if maybe by the time they knew that X Factor was getting canceled, maybe they did plan for it to be a totally separate thing, but they needed to change it.
Fact check, this is correct. X Factor was indeed cancelled last minute, leaving the writing team to scramble to tie up loose ends in this issue.
Yeah, because, okay, I was reading some comments and some people were claiming that it was always planned to conclude.
Wrong. He was so wrong.
As opposed to it's canceled, because when a book is canceled, that's it. But I believe that this was a planned conclusion.
There you go.
Because why did you introduce everything with Aurora's mysterious death and Prodigy's mysterious death that he's also investigating? Are you going to wrap that up in this book? Because in one issue, I don't think you can. I think the book was canceled, and maybe it's due to sales, which really sucks because I think this was one of the most cohesive and fun books that we had. Overall for this issue, still super enjoyable, super fun. I'll be okay with this text block and reveals a little bit more about why North Star's trying to keep his team close to the chest, because he doesn't want them to be siphoned off to be used militarily and offensively, which is actually kind of sweet.
He's protective of his boys.
I know, very cute. Speaking of which, this was a little bizarre tonally in the book. The thing with Kyle and North Star, when Kyle wanders in with the groceries, and
I loved it.
When they're literally working, right? Like, I think Rachel says, like, we're working, but still acquiesces and allows them to have a mundane conversation about dinner. It seemed like, I thought there was going to be a payoff, but there wasn't. I was like, why is this happening?
There was a payoff.
What was the payoff?
I think the payoff was that they were talking about the meal. They were texting earlier with the girls, and then they were like, well, let's meet up together. Also, this is just really an excuse for me to segue into a main point I want to talk about, is they kind of insinuated that Danny and Karma are a couple.
Kind of, and I'm cool with it, but in this realm, everyone's queer. Karma's been queer for a long time, and Danny has major swing both ways energy, so it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. And frankly, if I was them, I mean, just in the flower of my 20s, which is where I think they are right now, and being super liberated, why not fuck your best friend? Like, have a good time, enjoy it.
Yeah, I thought it was canon that they were together, but I might be imagining things.
There's always a hint between her and Rain, though.
Yeah, I had heard about that. I don't know. I'm here for it. If Danny and Shan are together, go for it. Karmage, Karmage. Karmage.
That's sexy.
Yeah.
Omelette du Karmage.
Omelette du Karmage. There was a nice thing here. The reading order, X-Corp was supposed to come before this. And it makes sense because Magic, when she defeats Mojo, totally name drops X-Corp. And that, like, hey, if you want to tell stories using my name, you're going to have to pay a licensing fee and work with us. Otherwise, I will sue you into oblivion.
Once again, every time Magic shows up, she just dominates the book.
She's, again, quickly becoming my favorite.
Yeah.
She is my favorite New Mutant, for sure. It used to be Doug, but sorry, buddy. Magic's back.
Morgan's plan here to get 1,000 deaths because mutants have no need to fear death, and so it all works out for everyone, is surprisingly pragmatic, which also does not sound like something that a death goddess would truly want, because it seems like mutants are cheating death, so those deaths are cheap.
Well, what we've been seeing is that with Prodigy and his body farm and all of the other characters and throughout the other books questioning whether the legitimacy of death anymore. If these deaths are good enough for a death goddess, methinks there's a little more to it than we're treating.
And I think maybe the Morrigan's point was also that, yeah, they're dying and they're coming back, but it's the act of dying that she needs.
Any more thoughts about X Factor?
Well, I mean, we've already lamented its loss. And that says a lot.
Have we lamented the loss of X Factor enough?
No.
Because what are we going to be left with? Wolverine?
This was such a fun, clever book. So creative, so different, so not impressed with the typical grandeur of X-Men in general, and really asking the hard questions and giving us snippets into lives.
And simultaneously also very joyful.
Yes. For a book about death, it was really fun.
Like the party that they have together, you know, even when Rockslide comes back and he's not recoverable at all, and they still manage to have this very beautiful moment where they watch the Aurora play out. That was a really fun issue, and you have a lot of unapologetic queerness in this book, several queer characters. No one's really being tokenized in the title. It's really fun and freeing to read, and I'm really sad it's going away.
And I like this team. I want this team to come back. I was honestly hoping before the announcement that they got canceled that, sure, if we lose Polaris, let's gain Siren.
You're right. The team here was great. Like, the synergy of the powers was fantastic, especially for an investigative group. Just the way that you have Eyeboy being a total forensic observer, you have Prodigy being a knowledge base, you have Muscle, you have leadership, you have psychic investigation. I mean, it all worked really, really well. And the goal was also important to the overarching narrative. If you have deaths that need to be investigated before resurrections can happen, and deaths happen a lot, then this is a valuable book to have. It makes sense.
Yeah, as we've seen in X Factor, it is increasingly important to verify these deaths and recover bodies.
Yeah.
Unrelated, but I will also note that it's interesting because there's another connection between X Factor and our next book, X Corp, and that is Sophia. She features in both.
She cameos in X Corp.
Yeah, but I think it counts, and they specifically talk about her mojo-ness, her mojo time,
Right.
and she's like an ambassador to Mojo World now. Like that's huge for that character.
I mean, it feels more like a punishment than a reward. Based, just based on her time there. Last time we saw her in Mojo World, she was traumatized and being killed on camera. Maybe not the most sensitive placement, but she seems to be dealing with it just fine.
All right, so I guess that brings us to our third and last book of the night. So, DeVon, are you ready to tell us about the long-anticipated X Corp?
I am. Let's dive right into this.
All right, ready in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, in the first pages of X Corp, we are introduced to Angel and Penance, being the opposite faces of X Corp. Monet goes on a world tour, picking up on all the mutants who we didn't know were still doing things in the mutant world. We see Angel going to Brazil to court some guy who'd been bought out by Xavier and is really butthurt about it. And then we learn that the contrast between Monet and Angel is going to be the theme of this entire book. And that is pretty much it.
All right. That is 42 seconds.
Yeah. So we're pretty much going to spend this entire run, it seems, contrasting difference between your dark and light side by having a white man and a black woman being compared constantly. One a literal angel, and the other a was she Albanian?
Wrong.
An Albanian
Moroccan?
woman?
Wrong.
Moroccan?
Wrong.
I thought she was Albanian.
No, honey.
I thought she was Moroccan.
You're so wrong.
She's Moroccan. I'm 100% certain she's Moroccan.
That answer is incorrect.
She is Moroccan.
That's not right, is it?
You're right.
You're so wrong.
I remember that, but it has something. Anyway, it's expressed that Angel, under pressure, did not revert to his darker form, which he is still apparently capable of. But Monet, as soon as she becomes slightly perturbed, she's Penance, has no control over her dark side, apparently, or very little. That was frustrating. But going way, way back here.
Oh, really quickly, I want to issue this correction. You are right. Her mom is Algerian.
There you go.
And
okay. Well, I said Albanian, so I was wrong anyway.
So wrong.
And she is not, I think, from Morocco at all.
What? I know for a fact she said she was Morocco.
That is so not right.
Does she? Because I feel like I was not making that up. But anyway, her mom's Algerian.
There you go.
I was close. I knew it wasn't Al something.
And
I'm American. I don't have to know geography.
Right. And her dad is her dad is from Monaco.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking. Because I remember her chewing I think it was Strong Guy out.
Yeah.
Because he like didn't know that she was Muslim, and she was like, I thought she said Morocco, but I guess she said Monaco.
Yeah.
Listeners, please be aware that our familiarity with these characters came at a time when we bebes.
And also, I mean, we are products of the American educational system, which does not really emphasize world geography.
Look, a lowercase r and a lowercase n look very, very similar.
I agree. I also thought Morocco for a long time.
Yeah. So there we go. We're dumb. All right. Sorry, DeVon, continue.
Clearly, Monet is building up she's been tasked with populating the board for X Corp, and she's picking up people who are useful, but ultimately controllable, extremely pliable, because she's picked up Trinary. Her next stop is Jamie Madrox, the Multiple Man, who she has notoriously bossed around. Back to this lab scene here, where she starts, the day by greeting him with a gut punch.
Right.
That's how I like to say hello.
Yeah, I can attest to that. That is how you like to say hello. Gotta keep those abs tight when you're around DeVon.
Right? Monet doesn't ask for the manager. She just punches until he shows up.
Which worked.
Of course it worked.
While we're talking about Jamie, I was really waiting for Layla to show up or mention her at least. Not a thing.
Nothing.
Yeah, for everyone who is missing someone, they've shoved them out of the way. Jamie is literally in the southernmost reach of the planet, alone, populating his own village to work on these flowers where he can ask no questions and do no harm. Granted, Krakoa and Gates, so he can go wherever he wants, whenever, but still.
I know you had a lot of hopes for this book. What was it that you were hoping for, and how does that compare with what we got? Because I know that you were really interested in kind of the financial breakdown of Krakoa, right? What's happening behind the scenes.
Well, it wasn't specifically the financials that I was looking forward to, just the nitty-gritty of how this all comes to be, how they interact with the world. And of course, that's going to be from a business perspective. And we do get that here, but be careful what you wish for. Is the lesson that I got out of this. I mean, while it wasn't over my head, it was just not what I expected in a comic.
Right.
Or maybe it was. I'm not sure. It's I'm still on the fence with this on whether or not I actually enjoyed it. I think I was more taken aback by what we see with Angel and Monet and how that's going to be played out. Whether or not you can be a good businessman and be a good man at the same time. That line, as opposed to Angel, while we see Monet sort of ruthlessly doing whatever needs to be done to get the job done. I mean, that's her character. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it hadn't really occurred to me that they contrast quite like this, and that he looks like a literal angel and she in penance form is so
demonic.
Clearly a demonic figure. I just seeing it on the page really did not sit well with me.
I gotta say, all the business jargon you referred to, I'm glad you understood it, because my eyes rolled in the back of my head and I just kind of glazed out for a while. I didn't understand any of that, so more power to you. But I kind of see where you're coming from in the sense of, you've got this woman of color who is being like the devil, and then you have this white man being the angel. I get that, but at the same time, I fucking love her penance form. It is one of my favorite things in X-Men comics. I love it so much. Monet is a bitch, but I love seeing that penance form. In fact, I was at my most excited when it existed on its own as Hollow, which we haven't seen in a million years. I just love it. So anytime it's on the page, any excuse we can have for her to freak out and go full penance, I am here for it.
Okay, well, let me clarify. I have no problem with her penance form. It's fucking awesome that she can just become penance, that she can reclaim that trauma and become a more powerful version of her already powerful self. The problem for me was that she couldn't control it, that it was so tied to her emotions. And she's, not only a woman of color, but a woman in power, not just of power, but in power. And her whole shtick now is that she has to control her emotions so she's not
crazy irrational black woman.
Crazy dragon lady boss bitch.
Yeah, that was interesting because I didn't think that was how she was now navigating that power with penance. I thought it was a very intentional form change. Also with penance, that's a little weird to me because I know that Monet is basically the perfect mutant outside of her penance form. She has flight, strength, durability, telepathy, everything. The penance form, does it grant her anything else other than like razor sharp claws?
Yes. She's basically invulnerable and she is immune to all psychic communication or invasion or anything. Like, you cannot get into her mind psychically.
Okay, so it's like Emma's diamond form, but more stylized.
Yeah, I think that's a really important contrast to bring up in terms of comparing the tropes here. This is an author, Teenie Howard, who I think is very aware of women's issues and portrayals, but seems to have also stumbled in Excalibur in how she handles the dynamics between white women and women of color. We saw that with Betsy and Quanon, where Quanon basically has to do all the emotional labor for Betsy. And we may be seeing that here too, with the way that Monet is portrayed as brutish and unconcerned, and also simultaneously not in control of herself. And so I think that's an interesting line to walk, and we'll see if Teenie Howard is doing that very intentionally, or if she seems to be doing this recklessly in terms of evoking these tropes.
I hope it gets fixed. It really steals the thunder from Monet's boss move to have her flying mountainous helicarrier appear over Brazil, and it doesn't feel like a boss move, but just sort of like she's out of control. Like it's just a page away where between that decision and where she's losing it in penance form.
She is, yeah, looking at the scene, she is flipping out. She's like, I'm done. I don't, everything here seems to be a very spontaneous action, right? To pull this boss move, and it just turns out to be a boss move. And it's surprising that these things are setting Monet off so much, because in my experience with the character, Monet is pretty collected most of the time, and in fact, very apathetic about the way things are done.
Well, not so much in recent comics. If we look at X-Force, Monet was the victim of her brother, and she was very, very much so monstrous. Back then, we had the Axis reverse Sabretooth, and he was actually the voice of reason, and he was looking after Monet because she was, being kind of crazy and was feeding on people. So she has been dealing with a monstrous element to her personality within the last few years. They've established that pretty well.
I don't know. It reads almost like Monet is less CXO and more of like henchwoman making things happen here. Warren had to go out and I guess play with this one guy and even considered his offer so that he wouldn't submit this environmental violation report. Reviewing it, I mean, Monet literally just loses her shit and decides to pull this big helicarrier move, which turned out to be the right move just because it eclipsed the issue of the Savage Land laboratory blowing up. But in terms of like cool, calm, and collected decision making, it doesn't read this way. She's furious, and Trinary and Madrix are both kind of like, Jesus Christ, like what's going on here?
Right.
That said, I mean, I get that, but I just don't, I'm not reading it the same way as you guys then, because I looked at Penance and everything that she was doing, and maybe I was projecting a little bit, I don't know, but I saw a lot of myself in there. A lot of this impatience for doing things, quote unquote, the right way, and more so just getting it done. Like, I have an idea, this is what I'm going to do, this is what we're going to do. And in fact, at the end of this issue, Penance even says that see, it'll do this and it'll do this and it'll do this. It totally eclipses. It's like, so even though it seemed like she was being very, irrational almost, at the end, it wasn't a, oh, look at that, that just so happened. She knew it was going to happen. Monet knew that the bold move she was making was going to do exactly what she wanted it to do. She just did it recklessly.
That's true. I think the complicating factor there too about it is that she did it knowing that the Savage Land lab and all the dupes in there that Jamie did not want killed and was very explicit are not disposable. She basically let it get sacrificed in a very brazen sort of way. I would say of all of them, I don't really know what it is that Warren really accomplished in this book.
Like, a damn thing.
Apparently not. He was willing to take this blackmail attempt seriously at one point, and then eventually stepped back from it. I want to say the art here is quite good. It's the type of artwork that I generally like in comics. I like this sort of line work, but I have to say that a lot of the action that was happening in this book, I had no idea what they were attempting to convey here. For example, like when Warren is flying toward the helicarrier and they need to lower the shields at one point, and there's this very clear panel where Penance is like, he's coming to us, and she yells his name and extends a claw, and he goes past, but what was that?
Yeah, I don't get that. And I also don't get why her claws look like gloves.
Yeah. But I couldn't really understand, like, what were they trying to tell me here? What were the stakes? He was flying toward the helicarrier, they had to lower a shield? Is that what was supposed to happen? Because that was not clear at all. He just seems to fly there, and then he's kind of
says lower the shields.
Yeah, but then what's with this panel with like her claw extending as he's whooshing past? Was she going to reach for him? Was she trying to grab him? Was she signaling that something was going to happen? It was very confusing. In terms of the storytelling there, I don't really know what was supposed to be conveyed. It really bothered me when I was reading this.
I got hung up on that too.
I think there are interesting dynamics to stay aware of in this title, as DeVon has pointed out. I think that they could play out in a way that is ultimately not stereotyped and tropish. But I think we'll have to see. I hope this is not a pattern for Teenie Howard. And if it is, from what I've read with her interviews and things, I guess I could be surprised if it turns out to be a pattern with her, and also not surprised if it turns out to be a pattern with her.
On a separate note, I thought it was very interesting that in the horse race, it was all Marvel's best horses. I'm surprised Butterrum wasn't in there. We had an Apocalypse horse. We had a Pegasus. We had something with a horn.
Butterrum was there in spirit. Weren't they eating Jello at some point during the race? That's where Butterrum is.
But also, who is this guy? He's unfamiliar, right?
As far as I know, I mean, he could be some obscure character that they've brought back in here as a businessman, but he's basically, your specter of capitalism looking to edge out these fledgling Krakoan enterprises. There were some other things that were a little confusing here with the dialogue. They show at some point that Monet is trying to contact Warren and they're speaking telepathically. Then they get cut off, especially when she turns into penance form. And then there seems to be dialogue that is either she is talking to herself.
This is actually one thing I wanted to mention. She kind of talks about Penance, her form, in the third person. And that made me wonder, could Penance be something else entirely? Because we've wondered, why do her little sisters also have Penance forms?
Mm-hmm.
Why does she? I wonder if maybe this book will explore some of that backstory and tell us a little bit about Penance and what this is. It could be that there is a entire Penance personality that is wanting to come up during anger and things like that, much like how Angel often has to deal with his death persona.
Overall, I mean, I would say this was an interesting first book, perhaps not quite as exciting as anticipated for me, but I do like Monet as a character, so I'm interested in seeing more of her. I think there are certain qualities with Teenie Howard in her writing, particularly with Kwannon and Betsy later on, after all the emotional labor, that have been pretty interesting. So hopefully we'll see more of that.
I do enjoy seeing how the Krakoans are fitting into the world with the advent of Krakoan drugs, because you can't supplant the entire pharmaceutical industry and expect no consequences for that. There's a lot of money there, and there's a lot of upset people. So that I'm looking forward to seeing done a little more, but a little more dynamically than with Angel. So I hope this and someone else.
I guess this is a good time to say that we have moved into our tops and bottoms of the week.
Absolutely. I went into this and I was wondering, GOG, who is going to be my top? And I really enjoyed both X Factor and I enjoyed X Corp a lot. Possibly the most out of the three of us. But I am going to say X Factor for my top and Children of the Atom for my bottom.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think X Factor still has everything that I love about it. And Children of the Atom, man, you got to get there. You're really stalling out. And even these little revelations are not enough to keep me there. X Corp, I think, has promise, but it was very dense and not as smooth, I think, as it would need to be a favored top here. So I think we're in a situation actually that's even different from the last time we had two tops, because this is someone who can fill the role of the top, but I'd rather spend my time with X Factor inside me all day long.
Yeah, I'm not going to differ from you guys' opinions here. X Factor definitely still my favorite of the week, definitely the top. The story's still compelling, even though I was confused about this entire Morrigan thing. It still gets points for the whole liberation of the Mojoverse and annexation of the entire of that entire dimension. Also, we got a magic moment, so you can't really be too disappointed about that. And Children of the Atom, can we abort it? Is it too late?
Damn, harsh words.
Well, then it'll have to settle for being my bottom.
We're going to move on to our last segment, which is called Destiny's Due Dates. So what comes next?
I think the two books that we have coming up next week are Way of X #2 and Wolverine #12. Yeah, so we're back to beggars can't be choosers for tops and bottoms. So I think we've successfully broken out of the top and bottom binary here. That's what we've got coming. I mean, I think Way of X, we're still hoping that'll be continue to be a provocative and interesting book. Wolverine, what expectations do we really have there, honey? You're gonna be taking the loads tonight.
And good for you.
Yes, never. We're not going to ever shame a bottom.
Just because we identify who the bottom is doesn't mean that we hate them.
We're not clocking you for being a bottom. We're clocking you because you're terrible. So let's review some of those looks in our weekly look review. All right, so here we have Penance, also known as Monet or M. What did we think of this look?
I mean, if you want to talk about fascinating fascinators, it's right there. I actually like that in X Corp, her pennant spikes kept popping out of her forehead, just like this. It makes me wonder if it's like, is that her pennant spikes or is that hat?
It's a little on the nose for me. You know, I like a more clever blend of stuff, but this is very obviously pennant spikes. The top is bandaged, which is interesting. A little fussy in some ways. And I thought that the shears, shears are very hit or miss for me. And in this case, they seem a little too casual. It certainly is on trend. Numerous celebrities are wearing shears like this, that are exposing kind of everything. I'll give it that initially I thought that this was a dress and they're actually sheer pants, which is pretty cool. And then you have these bandaged boots that she's also wearing. The mini gloves are cute. Overall, I'd give this a B.
I love the Fascinator. The pennant spikes, as I noticed throughout the comic, were very much like this. It's a great accoutrement. It's attention grabbing, possibly dangerous, and all outfits really should be.
Just like Monet.
The gloves are great. I do like the pants, the sheer. I mean, I guess they're on trend, but I think this works for Monet. Very high fashion. It's not it's not a giant ball gown.
That's what's interesting to me is that it reads very socialite to me.
Yes.
In that way that it also kind of reads young socialite, but it certainly is not Taylor Swift for the first half of her career wearing prom dresses to literally every music video and every red carpet she ever had to go to.
Right. So I'm giving it an A-.
As I said already, I do love the Fascinator. The sheer dress pants are cute, but honestly, I'm a little bored.
Yeah.
I like the idea. I think that this would work well for like an avant-garde kind of gala in the real world, but this is the Hellfire Gala. And I was kind of hoping for more, especially from someone that is perfection herself. She looks like she's going to the gala, but she has no intention of winning the gala.
Yeah, this is not a head turner of an outfit. You don't walk into the door with this and people do not turn their heads. They may turn their heads for that Fascinator at first, but everything else is actually quite subdued in this dress.
Well, let me emphasize, this is Monet, all right? She is the feature. She is what people are going to turn to look at. Because she is perfect. She can be wearing a sackcloth and she'd still win this gala.
But I guess I was hoping for more. Like if the Fascinator, if we had kept the energy that the Fascinator brings throughout the rest of the outfit in some kind of way. I'm not saying Fascinator the whole way down, but give me, I don't know, I need a little bit more. So I'm going to give her a B+.
Yeah, I think it's a balance issue here. The Fascinator has volume up top. Everything else is kind of unbalanced. It's very sleek and even moving into sheer. I think if we saw something, maybe a stole or a jacket or a coat that also brought that same level of volume that her Fascinator had, I might find it leaving more of an impression on me. Also, quick note, did anyone else feel that Monet on the next cover of X Corp, her profile looks a lot like Dominique Jackson, who plays Electra Abundance on Pose?
I thought she looks familiar.
I was like, did they reference that? Because she is everything.
Oh yeah, I live for Dominique Jackson. Get the shoes, baby, get the shoes.
Another character that we saw in the pages of X Corp was Janie Madrix, also known as the Multiple Man. Queen, let me just say, he looks like he fell out of the golden era of comics. And, this screams to me those early heroes in The Watchmen. I mean, this is
Yep.
a superhero costume and an old one. I don't think this reads as fashion or high fashion at all, let alone mutant fashion. This is a costume.
This looks like one of the mock-ups for Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern movie. It does not look like it belongs here at this gala, in this universe, and the split cape is not working for me.
I mean, what does this actually say about, if this is a blend of mutants and their powers and fashion, what does this outfit say about his powers? Nothing.
That tattoo on his head is very Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
But then the rest is very everybody else in The Watchmen.
Yeah.
But then it also gives me an overall Phantom vibe. Do you remember that movie with Billy Zane?
Yeah.
That's what this makes me think of.
I would give this C-.
Yeah, I'm giving it a D. D+, because he looks a little like Dr. Doom.
I don't hate it that much. I'm gonna give it just a solid C. Although I have to say that split cape is offensive.
The other cast that we had featured this week was X Factor. So we are going to start with the leader of X Factor, North Star.
Someone went to the Eagle.
Oh, and bought too much, girl. This for me is incoherent for a number of reasons. First of all, I don't know if it's the design or if it's just the way he's holding his cape. I don't know if it's a long flowing cape. There are lines that are crossing over everything, like lines that I think are supposed to continue from the draping of the cape over his right shoulder seem to be crossing over his pelvis. But then that might just be a design. The lines are super confusing here. I don't get why half of his jacket is split. It tells me nothing about him being North Star, which is either speed or blinding light. And I have to just assume then that this is something that Jean-Paul thought was nice on his own, like his personal taste, but it doesn't read like his personal taste. It is busy and confusing. I want to give this I don't want to be this mean, but I want to give this a D+.
To make this worse, I think for me, is that jacket that he's wearing is not, I don't think it's split. I think he's holding the bottom half of it over his left arm. So it would go to the floor if he weren't holding it up. The shoulder, at least the left shoulder pauldron, gives me strife. The right side is giving me cheap stripper. I don't like much of this.
And the collar, I mean, it's awful.
I appreciate the armpit window that he is giving us. Not even really a pit man, but I appreciate flesh in all its forms. So, thank you for that. It does look a little bit like Strife meets Tom of Finland to me.
I see it.
Yeah.
I see it. I don't even think it effectively evokes leather community here.
Oh, no, not at all.
It is supposed to be leather community, but not in a good way, Mr. Leather. But I don't know who designed this for you, honey. You should get your money back.
Is this supposed to be like North Star's Adam Rippon moment? Right? Like where's the harness under the tux?
No, it's not even that chic. This is, if you had put North Star in a leather daddy outfit, I would be rating that higher than this. And I think it still would have been more fashionable and daring than whatever the hell this is. Also a good time to note that these designs were by David Baldion.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna give this also a D+.
I give him a C.
Well, maybe things didn't turn out so well for North Star, but let's see how his beloved sister Aurora fared for the gala.
So much better.
Much better.
Check these shoes, these Swarovski crystals going all the way up to her knees or mid-calf. It's hard to tell with these proportions, but that is gorgeous. And this swirling mist of this dress just sort of dissolving after the waist. I love it.
See now,
And even,
okay.
I can even tolerate this tit window. I don't normally like this little open part here.
The keyhole.
See, okay, when I was talking about Storm having a cape that was made out of clouds and thunder and drifting down, this is what I'm talking about. Like the way this dress ends, that is what I would have loved to see. Biggest issue for me is there's not a lot of jewelry here, and I think it could definitely use some in the upper portion. But the dress itself, even though the solids are a little basic, I think the design here is very pretty. The only thing I'll really knock about the dress itself is that I don't think it really speaks to Aurora. She's either speed or light, and we're not getting either, but on her, it's ephemeral. I love it. It's gorgeous.
I love a good wispy dress. I love, like you said, that it is like a cloud. It does speak a little bit to her powers, unlike North Star's. Also, like you said, I agree, we need jewelry here. What would really punch this up a notch is prismatic jewelry. So just like her shoes, but stuff that makes a prism with light so that we get that Aurora element. That's what would really punch this up to 11.
Or this is even a little on the nose, but if you had made that dress more iridescent in its colors, right? Like really showing those Aurora spectrums, that I think would have done it for me. I'm going to give this, though, I still think it's very pretty. I'm going to give this a B+.
I was just thinking, it's extremely dramatic when there's a draft. What does this dress look like when she's just standing still, when it's not being dynamic? So for that reason, I will go with your B+. I'm gonna co-sign that.
It's unanimous, B+.
Wow, triple B+. Next, we have Aurora's paramour, DeVon. Oof. Y'all will hate me for this, okay? Because I know, Michael, you appreciate effort. This absolutely does not speak to effort at all. But it is very on character because I don't think DeVon would give a shit. So I'm giving it points for that. Tribal tattoos are out. So old-fashioned, out, tired, done. And I don't know why DeVon would have them on his jacket.
Well, doesn't he have them?
He does have them. I don't know why he would continue to carry them onto his jacket.
Yeah, I feel I have this outfit, and if I just had a damp cloth and a cutout, I could also design this. There's just no ever here, but it is very much DeVon. He's not even wearing shoes. Come on, man.
Yeah, like, we get it. You have regeneration abilities, but Bobby is going to be melting shit all over the damn floor. Wear some shoes.
Yeah, wear something with more tread, dude. I mean, I know DeVon just oozes sex appeal because he's very like, I don't give a fuck. And in that sense, it is oozing sex appeal because he don't give a fuck. But this is sloppy. I mean, am I awarding points for being yourself, or am I awarding points for what you wore? And I feel like those two emotions are averaging out to a C, but to be fair, I have to say it's a C- because you really didn't try.
A C-, that's generous. I'm giving it an F.
But he looks so nice in it. That's what's averaging out. Like, yeah, on the dress alone, like on the suit alone, it's an F. There's nothing here that's high fashion. There's nothing here that speaks to effort. I mean, he's not even put together a true look here. But would I fuck him? Yes.
Well, of course we would all fuck him.
I mean,
but...
I would not fuck Iceman in that getup that he was wearing because it's a disaster. This is a disaster, but I would still fuck him. And the thing is, he knows it. That's why he's wearing it.
I'm with DeVon. This is an F.
Okay. Well, if I had to go with non-sex appeal factors here, F.
I can't judge you too much because I was salivating over Bishop last episode.
Exactly.
But and I agree, high sex appeal. It's just Bishop did try, even if it wasn't very inspired. He did try, and he was sexy. He didn't try. He didn't try on this at all. So it has to be enough for me.
So, going in the theme of lovers of the Bobier twins, let's take a look at Kyle.
Oh, he looks like Phoenix Wright. Like a black Phoenix Wright. It's adorable.
You know, I'll give it some avant-garde points for the collar. That really high collar is a little bit different. It represents the standard like tuxedo shirt, but it's high and it's up there. It's dramatic. I don't think he needed the coat draped over his shoulders. What is this? What is this with people being given suit coats or tuxedo jackets from someone else because they're cold or they're drunk? I mean, we saw this with Mirage. This is unnecessary here. It's cutting too many angles out of this. I want to see the smoking blue tuxedo jacket instead of seeing this secondary tuxedo jacket that he stole from, I don't know, maybe this is DeKen after he took off his suit and just walked around in bare-chested. But the blue is a gorgeous color. Cummerbund, I could do without it. But overall, it's pretty chic. It's without the collar, it's nothing new. I give this a C+.
I really like that he's trying, because you got to remember, Home Dog is a human at the Hellfire Gala. And if we know anything from the previews that we've seen so far, the Avengers showed their asses at the Hellfire Gala in their fucking work clothes. Kyle is over here as a proper friend of Krakoa, putting in proper effort. So I give him mad snaps for that. My next question is, were he and Northstar trying to do some kind of couples situation? Because their outfits are not cohesive together.
My sense is this was an attempt to be cohesive as a couple, and yet it was not. So something about this is reading as you were trying to do couples costumes, and yet you did not come up with something that was coherent.
So I don't believe that these were at all intended to be, well, maybe, because from the waist down, Kyle is all Star Trek, and and Northstar is very much Wrath of Khan. So maybe they were, cosplaying
Federation versus Klingons.
These pants that go into the boots, how do you even get those on?
By slipping your foot into, one leg at a time.
Okay, fine, but booties. Ugh, at a gala.
I do think he looks chic.
I think he's posed like he thinks he looks chic. The collar, I'll give it points. I don't know exactly what's going on in it. I can't zoom in that closely.
Is it like a tie? It looks like the biggest Windsor knot you've ever seen in your entire goddamn life.
Or is it a turtleneck?
Oh, baby, I hope not.
It's an MC Escher disaster, but I kind of dig that. If you are going to the Hellfire Gala as a human, be visually interesting. And I guess that's what that tie is doing for the rest of this outfit.
It really does read to me as like +1 to a mutant.
Yes.
Like, oh, and who are you? Oh, I'm Northstar's husband.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
If we look at the Hellfire Gala, literally everyone else in this little handy guide is a mutant. Kyle is the only non-mutant featured. And I appreciate that he knew his lane and he stuck to it. I give him a B-.
Ooh, generous. So generous tonight, guys.
I am. I appreciate the effort. A lot of effort has gone into some of these.
It does look like he tried.
Okay, fine. C-.
Okay.
Damn.
C-. All right. So we've looked at Kyle. Let's take a look at our newest member of the revealed X-Men team, Polaris.
I don't know if anyone saw Gifted. I am always looking for Polaris's character in this Hickman run to closely resemble that, but I guess the show wasn't influential enough. But here, I'm kind of getting that vibe. She's super pale. Her hair is slicked back. I'm getting sort of that devil may care attitude. And this dress, it's there.
I'm not saying this is necessarily effective. I do dig that we're reiterating the magnetic waves that we've seen with her powers. That's pretty cool. It makes it seem as though this dress is something that's composed of that energy that she releases, the effect of her powers. The high collar and deep cut and the flared nature of it where it meets in the center is very, very much Isabella Rossellini in Death Becomes Her.
Yes.
That high jacket, which is, I'm going to give it points for being dramatic in that way, and in that way very daring, even though I don't think that this is necessarily firing on all cylinders for me. I do think that with the nature of this gown, even though I'm super not into strappy shoes, the strappy shoes here are a good choice. You want to feel sort of light. This would not work if you suddenly had a chunky boot or dramatic boots or anything like that. So I'm okay with this being strappy. I like this. I think I'd give this an A-.
First, I want to say about Gifted, So Polaris actually probably wouldn't have even been such a sweeping contender and the most likely winner of the X-Men poll had it not been for her actress on The Gifted. She heard about the poll, tweeted about it, and then bam, we got a flood of people that suddenly made Polaris our newest X-Men member.
Oh, are we still working with the belief that any of that was actually a true democracy?
I believe that really is what happened, because otherwise Polaris would probably stay in X Factor, and maybe X Factor wouldn't have gotten canceled. So I'm bitter. I'm bitter boots. This dress, I think it's pretty. I love the kind of iridescent nature of it. I think it would be better if it was metal. If this whole dress was actually metal that she was constantly bending and fluxing with her powers. I think that would be really freaking rad, like light refracting off of it. Her hair is slicked back. My only thing is, and I was looking this up a minute ago, her face is giving me a mixture of Children of the Corn, but also Perry from classic Doctor Who. She was a companion, the main companion, really, of the Sixth Doctor. And in her final episodes, she ends up possessed and looking like this.
Oh my God.
That's what this gives me. That's what her look gives me. So a mix of Children of the Corn and Perry's final moments from Doctor Who. So with all that said, it's pretty, it's neat, but it's not groundbreaking either. It doesn't give me a shoot moment. B-.
I like that it's representative of her powers. I like the color actually a lot. The shoes, I get your point, Terence. If this is meant to be light and airy, and these strapless, nondescript sandals really fit that very well. They just feel over casual. But I still really like this dress. That DV cut, the Isabella Rossellini nod is really what was at the back of my mind. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to give this B+. A-. I'm making it an A-.
Okay. Good for Polaris. Good for her. Let's see. Our next one here, speaking of ephemeral, Prodigy.
Someone is giving Lil Nas X a run for his money.
Baby, I'm so proud of him.
Right? He's emerged from his cocoon. He is a beautiful golden butterfly. I don't know a whole bunch about Prodigy. I don't think this relates to his powers any, but it doesn't really have to, but it does relate to what I know of his character so far in X Factor. And I like it. The boots, not so much. These little strappy sandal things aren't great, but the tunic and these wings, I'm going to have to give this an A.
So I would dock this because it really doesn't have anything to do with his powers, frankly. I mean, there's nothing about this that has anything to do with anything that Prodigy does. However, with recent revelations with Prodigy, where he's experienced so much that he just can't be contained to a heteronormative ideology, that he has experienced and learned so much, and he is out there and queer and living his life. This feels like a Billy Porter moment that is more about the character and their journey in that regard, and less about him as a mutant. And I can totally get behind that because this is daring, it's femme, it is transgressive, and also giving you radical fairy vibes. I mean, it's gorgeous and beautiful. And I think that if you did show up to a gala like this, you would be turning heads. It's a stunner for me. I'm going to give this an A.
I really, really, really love the wings. I love the tunic. My only complaint, honestly, the shoes. Like, I think the shoes are cute, but at the same time, he's wearing flats on the runway. But I appreciate the pragmatic element to it, because believe me, I have worn heels at gala type events, and let me tell you, it is torture. So I understand completely why you would wear flats, but it doesn't really fit with the rest of the outfit for me. I also kind of wish he had done more on top of his head. A wig or just a little tiara, maybe.
It would be nice to have some additional detail there. I mean, you kind of have that eyeshadow that's
Yeah.
there, that wing, almost like a wing liner over his eye, which is really nice. But you're not seeing quite as much. I think maybe if he had like glitter in the hair or something like that. The shoes, I disagree. I think this totally fits with that like Muse Grecian sort of vibe. Even if they're not like strappy Grecian sandals, they're kind of like wrapped Grecian sandals, and it works for me in that kind of way.
That said, I still give him the wings ticket A.
Nice. And I'm even sad to introduce this one because I already know how we felt about it when we first saw it. Our resident telepath on the X Factor team, Rachel Summers, also known as Prestige. I'm going to flat out say this. This is an F.
Yes, pass. Next.
Oh, come on.
And let me tell you why this is an F. Because yes, is Rachel's hound costume avant-garde? Is the expression of it, as it is portrayed here, avant-garde? Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, this is haute couture. This is high fashion. It is a costume that she wore when she was enslaved and forced to find other mutants and have them destroyed. Rachel would never, ever, ever, in this iteration of herself, ever choose to wear this, even to be flashy. It is so gauche, and she would be embarrassed, I think, if someone suggested this to her. Totally inappropriate. I mean, awesome baby on a leash made out of her hair, which makes no fucking sense, by the way, is also reiterates that whole Ahab control hound on a leash thing. It is I mean, I would be speechless about how inappropriate it would be for her. Unless Rachel was feeling particularly like self-hating, I don't think she would ever wear this.
Yeah, that definitely does not jibe with what we've seen from Rachel so far, who has become a lot more confident in her power, stable in who she is. This is a complete affront to her history.
Has Amazing Baby ever even been on a leash or in a collar ever?
Not as far as I know.
Yeah, like she's always carrying him around. I mean, like that's the first red flag. Secondly, if we look at this not disconnected from Rachel, then yeah, she looks cool, she looks badass, but you can't. It's Rachel that's wearing it.
Yeah.
Sure, it's a reference to her hound days, but it's not something that she should be wearing. It honestly looks like Carnage.
Oh,
it looks
God,
like she's
yeah.
wearing Carnage.
Yeah.
And again, it looks cool, but Rachel would never wear this. Rachel would absolutely not wear this. I hope that there's a story here or an explanation. There probably isn't. It doesn't look like Rachel. It looks like past Rachel. Like if Hound Rachel showed up at the gala somehow, then sure. But not Prestige that we know and love today. Because it's cool, I don't feel right failing it entirely, so I will give it a D-.
If we're talking about fashion that is provocative and transgressive, this is indeed provocative and transgressive, and it would be provocative and transgressive of her to choose to wear this. What is the motivation to wear that? If Rachel, like if this was Rachel in the period of time where Scott started dating Emma, and she was so upset about that, especially with, you know, Jean dying and everything, and she was angry, I could see this. I could see this being a message, right? An attempt to convey that anger and that rage. That is not where Rachel is right now. She's pretty chill. And I don't think she would ever look at this then as anything other than being shocking for shock value in a very inappropriate way. I mean, it would almost be like if Storm decided to show up out of nowhere to this gala wearing the bodysuit that she had to wear with a shaved head when she was mind controlled on Genosha, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's certainly something she wore and it's shocking, but it highlights a very like inappropriate time in that character's life. I would never see Rachel choosing to do that.
Burn it.
Burn it down.
With Phoenix Fire.
With Phoenix Fire. All right. Well, maybe the next option here will favor better and help us move on a bit. We've got the always adorable, always earnest iBoy.
I can imagine iBoy walking into Jumbo's studio and saying, what did Prodigy get? I'll just go with that. And then that's how we wound up with this, which is almost, a stylized difference, but it's still very much
They're
what
related.
Prodigy's wearing.
Yeah. I love the blue and gold. I love the eye pattern. It's a little outside his box from what we've seen. He's usually very covered up, and here he's very free. And I kind of dig it. I have to say the outfit here is like a corset that drooped and a very daringly low crotch cut. Does iBoy have another eye that we haven't seen yet?
Probably.
But yeah, what's his one-eyed monster look like?
At this point, I have to ask, how old is iBoy?
I know, because it's
Okay.
also making me feel a little bit weird. If iBoy's like 16, I'm
No,
not
he's
here for
definitely old enough to work for X Factor. Like they didn't want minors.
that. Okay.
First of all, this is the X-Men universe. There is no child labor law. Strict enough.
Yeah, isn't
Xavier
that-
had no scruples.
Yeah, and isn't that what Schism was all about? Like child labor? But I dig this. I think, okay, in all of them, when I want something that's a little bit of majesty for jewelry or headdresses or fascinators, something like this with that gold eye chain that is kind of wreathing him like a halo, I love it. I'm super into it. I almost wish it was even more. But it's totally within my taste. I adore it. I think he looks so cool in a way we've not seen him before, and yet this is absolutely on point with his powers because it's a bunch of freaking eyes. Oh, and I love his hair done up like that. Very, very pretty. I'm gonna give this an A.
I'm so proud of my baby boy.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. He has got his hair did, and he's got all of his eyes out. He used to be ashamed of his eyeballs, and now he is basically naked on the green carpet. He's got all of them out there. I'm just so proud of the effort and the joy of embracing yourself and sharing all of yourself, including all those eyeballs looking everywhere. Like, I'm happy for him. And so I give him an A.
Yeah, I'm giving him the same grade I gave Prodigy. A.
I just hope he's able to keep that on as he walks. I hope there's some double stick tape there.
No, there's definitely going to be a wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, so hopefully no one sees iBoy's soul brown eye. So our last look of the night is part of the entertainment. That is Dazzler.
Oh, there she is. I couldn't see her behind all the lights. But definitely looks like she pulled that jumpsuit out of her closet and just kind of, I'm going to just sparkle.
Yeah, there's not a lot of effort here. I'll give there some details that are interesting. The sleeves and the edges of the pants look like they're actually prismatic or made out of some kind of crystal, and not just a plain freaking disco suit that she's had in her closet for the past 40 years. But I get it, like, why make your costume really crazy if you can do this with light and her powers? But this is kind of boring, girl. Like, it is undeniably, the light effect is gorgeous, but this was expected and a snooze.
Yeah, and this design was by Bob Quinn. And my main issue with it is it relies solely on her powers. And like, yes, we want them to use their powers for this gala, but we want costume work too. It does seem, like you said, that the material is kind of prism-ish, but it's just so bell-bottoms 70s inspired. I wanted Lady Gaga at the Met Gala. That's what I wanted. I wanted, imagine this material, but a giant ball gown with a ridiculous, ostentatious crown. This is Dazzler's moment, or at least it could have been. This is the kind of event where she can quite literally shine. The ball was dropped.
Yeah.
For a character whose entire development has been changing with the times, starting out as a disco character and then moving to pop, and then whatever she's doing now, I guess it's just a more modern version of pop.
The hyper pop EDM new disco Fantasia.
That's her music sound right now.
This does not follow her evolution, and that just feels cheap.
This was a letdown. Maybe in person, the idea of all this glimmering light would be great, but it's exactly as Michael said. Where's the costume work here? This is relying on powers and nothing else. It's not even iconic. Like, it's not even iconic because the hair is totally wrong. Like, if she was going for that 1970s disco dazzler look, where's the Farrah hair, right? This is
Taylor
locks.
Swift.
Yeah, Taylor Swift locks, the mask. There's not even roller skates here. She's wearing some kind of clog heel. Like, ugh.
Those look like platform shoes to me.
And they're bad. I mean, they're bad. Allison can, has, and should have done better than this. I'm going to give this a D.
F here.
Ooh,
Wow.
D+.
Okay. So those were the looks that we reviewed today, and it looks like we have a tie this week.
Oh my God. What you mean tie?
Our top looks of the week go to iBoy and Prodigy. Work, you fabulous bitches.
Now y'all gotta drive cross country and maybe take DeKen with you because he is just a boy in pants.
Oh God.
Little tired mutant in drag. Why are you crying?
I mean, the two of them do look like what I would expect my gay fairy godmothers to look like, and maybe help out DeKen. I love it. Quite a pair. And they're complimentary. This is like blue and gold team. Which team do you want to be a part of?
Right.
All right. So those were our rankings for the week. What did you guys think of these outfits? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did we say something horrible? Or were we not horrible enough to some of these people? Let us know in the comments. Send us an email if you disagree. Are any of you fashion majors? Do you know more than us? Are you ready to put us in our place? Because this is the internet and you're free to do it.
Yeah. So, folks, with all that said, please remember, if you enjoyed today's conversation, you are encouraged. No, you are begged. Please give us an email at goodmorningkrakoa@gmail.com. And as always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, this podcast, so that we can spread our reach, so that we can go beyond the divine. We must find more. We must add to the collective. Join Krakoa. Oh God, what came over me? And with that note, good morning, Krakoa, and good night.